The trim out is the last step in a new electrical installation. You can see that all of our finish work is done. Now we can finally hook up all the switches, receptacles, light fixtures, and appliances. We've mounted the boxes properly because they're flush with the surface of the drywall, or a little behind it. Code allows the boxes to be recessed up to 1/4 inch back from the drywall. This part of the job is pretty simple. Just consult your plan and hook up the appropriate device to each box and put on the cover plate. The color coding on the screws makes this pretty easy. If it isn't clear on the fixture you're dealing with, well, then there are other indications. The ground screw connects to the mounting strap. It's a hexagonal screw and it's often labeled with the letters GR. The hot side of an outlet is always on the side with the shorter slot on the face, and the neutral side always has the longer slot on the face.
To install an outlet, you simply connect the wires to the appropriate terminals. Remember now, these cables are not connected to any source of power, so they're safe to work with. If you ever need to work on powered cables, be sure to turn off the breakers for the affected circuits back at the service panel. Then use a circuit tester like this to make sure the power's off. It'll light up if the power's on. And it's not a bad idea to post a warning to keep everybody from flipping the breakers back on. After stripping the end, use a needle nose pliers to bend the wire into a small hook. Fit that around the screw itself and tighten the screw down. By the way, you get the surest connection if the hook goes clockwise to the screw. Follow that procedure for each of the leads and the ground. Once all the leads are connected, you can push the cables back into the box and secure the outlet to the box by driving in the screws attached to the mounting ears on the top and bottom. To wire a series of outlets, you sometimes see the incoming leads attached to one pair of brass and silver screws with the outgoing leads attached to the second pair. But electricians will generally use pigtails in a situation like that. They first separate the leads by color, twist each set together with a 6 to 8 inch wire of the same color, and then secure each set with a wire connector. These shorter pieces are the pigtails which get connected to the device. The most critical device in power in kitchens, bathrooms, basement, and garages is a GFCI receptacle, which stands for Ground Fault Circuit Interrupt. It'll cut power instantly if it senses a short circuit or other faults that would otherwise be quite dangerous. Here's how it works.
A GFI receptacle constantly monitors how much current is going out to a device on the hot lead and how much is coming back on the neutral. Normally, these two amounts of current are the same. In a fault situation, the dangerous current is the current that doesn't come back on the neutral. This current might be trying to return to ground through other routes, possibly through a person who's in contact with water. A GFI senses differences in current as small as 5/1000ths of an amp and shuts off the power within a 40th of a second. They're wired a little bit differently than regular outlets. Well, for one thing, they've got 2 extra screws. These hot and neutral screws are labeled line. This is where the incoming power is attached. Then these extra screws, labeled load, feed power out to the other outlets. Any outlets attached to the load side will also receive GFI protection from this device. So we'll wire this receptacle to the right side of the sink to the first GFI and get GFI protection without having to use a second GFI device.
Now we'll show you how to install a few different types of light fixtures, starting with what's known as a retrofit recessed light. It's similar to the rough-in model we put in before, but it goes in after you finish installing drywall and cabinets. Most come with a template to help you mark the opening you'll need to cut in the ceiling. The advantage here is you can position the lights exactly where you need them in relation to your countertops, islands, and other features. The trick is to run all the wiring you'll need during rough-in or figure out a way after the fact to get cabling into the joist space. Like the rough-in model, the retrofit lights come with a metal box where you make the necessary hot, neutral, and ground connections, twisting the wires and capping them with the appropriate connectors. The beauty of the retrofit unit is that it will fit up through the opening, with the tail going in first and the can following behind. To secure it, there'll be clips that push down against the top of the drywall while the rim of the can locks in tight against the bottom of the drywall. Various trim kits are available to finish off recessed lights. They work on both the retrofit and rough-in versions. They're generally attached with spring clips that hook into the pre-cut holes in the light's metal housing. Bear in mind that most codes require airtight boxes if they're going into an insulated space.
Light switches are fairly simple to connect. although it's a little different from the outlet we showed you earlier. Like outlets, switches come with a grounding screw where you attach the ground wire. But instead of connecting a black lead and a white lead to the switch, you connect two black leads to the two terminals. That's because a switch basically interrupts the flow of power to the fixture, so a black lead from your power source is connected to one terminal, and the black lead going to the fixture is connected to the other one. The white leads are connected to each other, but not to the switch. After finishing the connections, you can push the cables back into the box and screw the switch into the box. Our next job is hanging a pendant light, and for that we first screw a retrofit electrical box into some blocking we secured between the joists above the drywall. We pull the new cable through that to power the light. Again, we just pair up the wires by color, twist each pair together, and cap off each one with a plastic wire connector. Another reminder, always make sure the power's off before working with bare wires.
Slide that right into position. Okay.
Under cabinet lighting is a common way to add some task lighting over your kitchen countertops. To start this particular procedure, you first secure the back of the light to the underside of the cabinet. Then you connect the fixture's electrical leads to the corresponding wires in the power cable. This unit has a handy feature, allowing you to hang the fixture from the back of the light while you make the connections. Once the wiring's done, you push the light up into the back of the unit and screw it in place. Then you insert the bulbs, fluorescent in this case, and snap the cover in place to finish the light.
Low voltage puck lighting is another common form of task lighting. For this application, we mounted a shelf over a sink and drilled holes for each puck light using a hole saw bit chosen to match the diameter of the round lights. After directing the light's leads up through the holes, we set the pucks in place along the bottom side of the shelf. They usually come with tiny screws you drive through the rim into the mounting surface, as we did here. And there's usually a trim ring to snap over the rim and hide the screws. Typically, the lead from each light is then screwed onto the terminals of a small adapter that's also connected to a low voltage transformer. This particular style is then plugged into a 110-volt outlet for power. The last thing we want to address is the issue of tying in, which means connecting any new circuits you've run to the home's power supply.